me now for more on this, Labor MP and Special Envoy for Social Cohesion, Peter Khalil. Thank you for your time. These protesters that are marching, what do you think this says about these construction workers?
Well, Tom, g'day, how are you? Every Australian is entitled to protest as long as it is peaceful. That is a fundamental democratic right which we should all support. The fact is the Albanese government has acted very swiftly to pass this legislation to ensure that corruption, criminality, thuggery, bullying are removed from this union. And despite the difficulties in Parliament where, at least initially, the Liberals and the Greens voted against this legislation and delayed it, finally the coalition did come around. It was quite remarkable, really. People probably wouldn't have taken notice, but the fact that the Greens and Liberals were voting together to protect the CFMEU from having an administrator appointed to actually clean out those issues. But in the end, we did pass it through Parliament last week, and that has happened, and there will be an administrator appointed.
But what your words there, thuggery, corruption, what these workers are doing, these construction workers, they're marching going, no, we like the union just the way it is. What does that say about them and the culture, widespread culture? This is not John Setka marching by himself, the widespread culture in this union.
Well, the government has, I think, as I said, taken very strong action to pass the necessary legislation. That's not an easy thing to do, but it's the right thing to do. And that around 270 positions in the union will be vacated. The Attorney-General was authorised by the Minister of Employment and Workplace Relations to make that decision under the legislation. And so all of the officers remaining will be subject to the administrator and have to report to the administrator. So in a sense, the administrator is in charge of the union, and that's an important step to ensure that those elements
I understand that
will be removed.
I understand that. But I'm going beyond that. They're the 270 that have been removed. Thousands more are basically giving the thumbs up to them, to the way it's run. What does this protest
culture in
say
any
about
organisation,
the workers marching today?
Culture in any institution, any organisation, as you know, Tom, whether it's in the media, whether it's in the union sector, whether it's in politics, starts from the top, and there's norms of behaviour, cultural standards, behavioural standards, normative behaviour, which needs to be set with good leadership. And obviously, the actions taken by the government are there to put in an administrator, start the process of rebuilding that leadership and setting those standards that will flow through the entire organisation.
But by the time this comes out of administration, it's probably going to be people marching today that get in charge again, and the same thing will happen, won't it? These people marching today are saying, we like the way it's run.
Look, people are entitled to their view. The government has made a decision based on the evidence.
What do you think of these workers marching today, though? Should they be taking stock of their union more than just supporting it?
Workers are entitled, like any other Australian, to protest peacefully. That is a democratic and fundamentally democratic right, as long as it's peaceful. The government has made a decision that there is no place for criminality, corruption in the construction industry. And all of those elements that we've seen in the past, the thuggery, the intimidation, the corruption, are unacceptable in any workplace, frankly. And so that's why the government has taken this action to ensure that an administrator is appointed to start to change the culture within the organisation. And that is a process that is now underway, which was being blocked by the Greens and the Liberal Party for political purposes. Now, we can go around in circles.
I know, Tom, you have made that point. You have made that point.
We can go around in circles about... Sorry, we can go around in circles about views around workers and so on.
But you haven't given... We're not going around in circles because I haven't got your view yet. Would you have a message for the workers to say, hey, have a look at how your unions run. This is not good enough. You shouldn't be part of the labour movement if this is how your unions run?
There is a pretty clear message that has been given by the government with respect to this legislation being passed by the Parliament of Australia to put an administrator in place to address those issues that have been prevalent within the union. And I think that's a pretty clear-cut message, don't you?
Okay. Well, it's clear. It's a clear message to the union, but there's a lot more to talk about the leadership than the rank and file. Anyway, we've had a few rounds of the kitchen. Let me ask you about this, Peter. Criticism from the coalition is coming because of Marine Faruqi, the Greens senator. She's on this Senate committee looking at anti-Semitism on university campuses. They say she's refused to condemn Hamas Hamas's attacks on October 7, so she shouldn't be on that committee. Do you agree?
Well, I'm not privy to the intricate workings of the Senate and how they appoint senators onto various committees. I will say this about the issue more broadly. The increase in anti-Semitism has been some 680%. There's a remarkable increase in anti-Semitism. Obviously, this particular Senate inquiry is looking at the university sector specifically, which is one part of that, obviously. How the Senate determines and how parties and minor parties determine who sits on those committees is part of their processes. I can't second guess that.
View on it.
Well, I mean, I would hope that all senators actually attend that committee in good faith and ensure that they are listening to witnesses. Committee processes are important. They're not supposed to be partisan as much as anything else. They're supposed to draw out evidence from expert witnesses, from the public, from submissions to come to really important conclusions that are in the national interest. So I would hope that every senator on that committee does their job in good faith without the need for partisanship.
Just very briefly, you can see a picture of the Pies in the background there. You're a big Collingwood supporter. They're out of the finals. You must be jumping on the Lions bandwagon. You know, there used to be Fitzroy. They're playing your arch enemy, Carlton, as Brisbane Lions. Can we welcome you on board for September?
Well, I tell you what, Tom, I know you're a Brisbane supporter. I know you were very hurt when we beat you by a couple of points a few weeks back. And I know you know that if Collingwood was in the finals, we would have beaten you in that first elimination final because you're going to absolutely massacre Carlton. They've got a whole bunch of injuries or a few people coming back, players coming back. Anyway, good luck to you. Good luck to Brisbane. It's a bit boring. It's all interstate, no Victorian clubs.
That's why you got to remember the Lions are still Fitzroy deep in their DNA. All right, I think that's an endorsement, Peter. I think it is. All right, thank you, Peter Khalil there. We'll talk again next week with